What's up, guys? I just wanted to discuss a couple of things, have a little commentary on the 2014 E3 and the state of next gen consoles and what I think about them. Um, First of all, I just want to say I'm not that impressed with what we're seeing so far from the next gen. I do think that both Sony and Microsoft made a miscalculation, okay, as far as what they thought would be the most adequate hardware to use with these new consoles and their staying power. And most of them were thinking, hey, we're going to build these consoles to pretty much have more or less of a 10-year usability gap. And it's I don't think in 10 years people are going to be still playing those consoles in particular. I think they were built underpowered. They should have put better hardware in these consoles. I know that they were thinking affordability, and I understand the importance of making these consoles affordable to the average person, so that as many, more people can own them. At the end of the day, that's what they want, and I'm all for that. But I do think they went too far. They could have bumped it up a bit. They could have used better hardware. I'm not talking about something that's going to compete with like high-end PCs. We know that PCs are more powerful. I'm not a PC gamer, but I do recognize that yes, PCs are more powerful, and you hear all these people talk about uh, PC superiority and all this other stuff, or PC master race. I couldn't care less about that. This isn't about trying to compete with that, but consoles have a place in the market. And there's something about a console, the simplicity of it, that it's still something people want, including myself. I'm a console gamer. I'm not a PC guy, so I don't want to get into that, which is better. I understand PCs are more powerful, fine. But strictly sticking to the debate about next gen games and the hardware and the consoles, I do think that they could have did better. I'm really not all that impressed with these consoles, and I know and I'm sure we're going to see better things later as developers get a better grasp of the hardware. They'll be able to squeeze more out of it. I understand that. That's what happens with all consoles, and I expect the same to happen here. However, we are already seeing certain limitations on these consoles that sort of are a bit underwhelming, and most people kind of expected more. And even people that want to say the best they can about these consoles, I think they're doing it because it's really wishful thinking. It's like, you know what? It's too late. These consoles are out there. They're not going to just build a new console right away. We're kind of stuck with what it is, and we're stuck with it. And in that sense, you sort of want to say, well, it is what it is, and you know what? It's pretty cool stuff anyway. You know what? It's a step up, absolutely. Um, but I just think they really they could have did more. They could have tried harder and just used better hardware. And that's where the affordability discussion comes in. I think you could still get it to where people could still go out and purchase one. It'll cost more, absolutely, but it doesn't mean it's going to be so far where it's not affordable. Just think about this. Everybody out there has a cell phone. And a lot of people have cell phones that are very close in price to what these consoles cost. I see cell phones out there for $500, and people, regardless of their situation financially, they always seem to find a way to buy these cell phones. Everybody's walking around yapping into their cell phones, and these things can do so many things, so many apps, a lot of things that I don't even think are necessary. But I'm a little bit old school that way. But the bottom line is, many people have these phones. not like, oh, it's just for the elite and people who can afford them. People are finding ways of going out and purchasing these items. And then on top of that, there's a cost of these. I mean, some people pay a couple $100 a month just to use these devices. So I think Sony and Microsoft probably underestimated how much people would be willing to spend on a next gen console. And I think they ended up making although the price is great, the price tag is super great, but you get what you pay for. And now you're getting consoles that are really struggling with, you hear a lot about 1080p, 60 frames per second, and I know graphics aren't everything. I'm not like a graphics whore, but anybody that says that graphics don't matter or that that's not what they were looking forward to with the next gen, they're full of shit. That's probably the number one criteria for the next gen. Is like, we were looking forward to seeing something amazing, something much better than the last consoles. And while yes, we are seeing a difference, and I'm sure it's going to get better, we already know that there's a problem between developers and the hardware on these consoles and getting it to run and develop the type of games that they want to make and have them look as great as people would expect them to look and also run smoothly. I'm not an expert on computer hardware. I don't really understand all of the internals of these machines. I'm an average guy. I'm not technically savvy, so I can't really speak with great, knowledge on these things. But I can tell you one thing: certain things make sense and certain things don't. These consoles just look to me like they were rushed out before they should have been. And I understand neither Sony nor Microsoft wanted to be caught with their pants down. Like what happened with PS3, the last console, the generation, they were caught off guard, and they came out well after the Xbox 360, and it took them a while to catch up. For a while, Xbox really was having they were dominating in the marketplace, and after a while, you know what? PS3, they were coming out with some great games. So neither one wanted to give that advantage to the other. So as soon as one of them would come out, the other one was coming right behind it. I understand that the business aspect of it and having to get these things have these things, released to the public. But you know what? You really left something a lot on the table, to be honest with you. I think underestimating, like I said, what would be the proper price tag for these consoles. I think they could have did more. I don't know how much more. Like I said, I'm not an expert. I don't claim to know everything, but it makes sense to me that maybe a couple $100 more, people would be willing to pay for it. I mean, people are buying flat screens. Like I said, they have these super expensive cell phones. I don't own one of those cell phones, but so every time a new cell phone comes out, it's not that much different from the last one. And these things they cost $450, $500. I'm shocked, and everybody's walking around with one. So somehow, when people want something, they do what they have to do to go out and buy it. And I think they could have did more with these consoles. They would still sell in record numbers, and you would have more to work with for the developers. And I'm just like, you know what? So far, what we're seeing as far as these consoles, like I said, bottom line, I'm not that impressed. I don't really care that all that much for all these extra apps and stuff like that with how you can use you with watching television. A console is for games, for me. That's all I care about. And I don't need to juggle different things. When I'm playing a game, that's what I'm doing. All right? I don't multitask while I'm playing. When it's time for me to play video games, I just close everything else off and I'm playing video games. If I got to do something else, I shut the console off. I go do what I have to do. Or if I want to watch TV, I watch TV. I don't understand people that need to do that multitask watching television and playing video games. I just don't see a market for it. I don't see I'm sure a lot of people do it, but not enough to justify all this other crap. Really, you really got to make gaming the top priority above and all. And Sony did a better job than Microsoft. Microsoft is now playing catch up, but they made a lot of mistakes. Both consoles, to be honest with you. I really don't. I'm not a fanboy of either one. I am uh, a consumer of the PlayStation brand. That's what I've always played. That's what I'm comfortable with. So I'm sticking that route. But I'm not here to be like, oh, PlayStation 4 is better than the Xbox, whatever. Everybody's gonna have their own opinion. Technically, I have to say, so far, and like I said, I'm really being honest. The PlayStation 4 has a slight advantage, and to say otherwise, it's just dumb. So far, that's what we're watching and we're seeing, and even the games, they're slightly able to do a little more with the PlayStation side than the Xbox One side. But that's not that important because even saying that, the PS4 is not all that impressive. So I think they could have made these consoles a little closer to maybe a mid-range PC, and even if not that much, still, um, a lot of people are saying, hey, 1080p and 60 frames per second, that's not even new technology. That's been out for a long time. We're really not that far away from 4K, which is what we're starting to see now. And while I don't really think 4K is necessary, I think 1080p, you could live on that for a long time. And really, whatever the textures and frame rates and all that other stuff, there's a lot of important things that go into how a game looks and feels. It's not just about 4K, 1080p, but it's all important. But regardless of any of that, these consoles underwhelming, in my opinion. They're just not all that. It's a step up from the last gen, but not all that much. And I don't know. We're kind of stuck with them. Maybe they could come out with ways of doing more with these consoles. Who knows? Maybe they would come out with, I don't know. A part of me at first thought they could come out with slightly better consoles, like based off of these with upgraded hardware. But then again, that doesn't make a lot of sense because developers would then have to develop for those as well, and then you'd be pissing off customers who already bought these consoles. It's just a lot of things that come in and out of my mind that I'm sure a lot of people think about, and a lot of it might make sense at first, but then you really think about it, it just really can't be done. We're kind of stuck with what we have, so we're gonna have to learn to live with it. But just to say, I don't know. I really don't know why people are so excited over the next gen in general. I'm not so far all that impressed. That might change, but so far, so let's get off of the console side of the next gen for a second. The other thing that's on the other side, which is the developer side, another thing I'm really not all that impressed. I don't see. You look at E3. We just had E3 2014. I was shocked to see that the majority of the games that were being announced, we already knew about these games. Even a lot of these games were announced at last year's E3. So they're not really new. They're new because they haven't been released yet. But many of these games have been delayed, which shows something about the next gen consoles. Again, something's not quite there. These developers are having issues, and maybe they're seeing, what, people are starting to complain about the graphical nature of these games and how they're really not all that. They're lacking something. I'm going to use one game that really was a huge disappointment for me. I know a lot of people still liked it, but Watch Dogs, that to me is very representative of one of the huge issues that I've just been discussing. When you first saw that game, and when I first saw it, that game blew me away. The first footage that people saw, holy shit, the internet blew up. People were like, oh my God, did you see that? Can you believe how great that game looks? The city, the liveliness, the textures, the wind, you could see leaves blowing, you saw the wet ground. It just looked amazing. And people were like, holy shit, next gen. If that's next gen, holy shit, I can't wait. And I was one of those people. And then we found out that footage wasn't captured from next gen hardware. That was enhanced footage, which is something that irks me to no end about these conferences like the E3 or these other conferences where these game developers gather and show off their stuff. There's so much hype and false advertising that irks me. I understand that these guys want to build suspense for their products, but I think they've gone too far with the marketing and it's false advertisement. There's no ifs, ands, or buts around it, and I'm sick and tired of it. Don't show me stuff I'm never gonna be able to play. Okay? When Watch Dogs finally came out, I don't I don't care what anyone says. And I'm not saying that the game itself as a whole is a terrible game. It's not a bad game. I love open world games. That's actually my preference. But you know what? It's not all that. And it definitely does not look I could honestly say that Grand Theft Auto 5 in many ways actually looks more polished. Not from beginning to end, but there are moments when you look at it and it's like, wow, what Rockstar was able to do on a last gen console, nothing short of amazing. And you look at Watch Dogs and they're like, this is next gen. And those games are very close in many aspects. And like I said, there are actually moments where I'm like more impressed with the current gen of Grand Theft Auto 5. I'm not saying there aren't times where Watch Dogs looks impressive somewhat, but it's nothing like it was when it was first shown. The first footage, I don't care. It's night and day. And it does matter. It does matter. I know that graphics aren't everything, but it matters. The frame rate, the pop in is horrendous. It's not it's there are last gen games that are better, way better in terms of things like pop in or it's just little details. And that game lacks in detail compared to Grand Theft Auto 5. There are so many of little things that you realize as you're playing the game. The physics, the way certain things react to being shot at. It's just a lot of things you can do in Grand Theft Auto and things you can see that you don't in Watch Dogs. When you take all that into account, it's not all that. And I found it to be a huge disappointment. Again, the game itself is not terrible. It's okay. And actually, if that game came out a year or two ago, it would even be feel better. But because of the hype and all this false advertisement, I'm sorry, but it had a huge impact for me and for many people. It's a disappointment. And when you compare it side by side with Grand Theft Auto 5, which isn't even fair, it's a previous gen game, Grand Theft Auto 5 holds up its own. And overall, as a game, is way better. It has more replay value to it. You can play that game over and over. Whereas Watch Dogs, you finish it once, and you know what? I don't feel like picking it up again. That game's gonna collect dust, and it was okay, for one playthrough. And it's just, you know what? I'm not that impressed, and I found it to be a disappointment, and that's what bothers me. All this false advertisement, all this overhype. You can't believe what you're watching anymore. And aside from the fact that the majority of these games were shown a year ago or throughout last year, at some point, there's not much fresh, brand new stuff that came out in E3. And then most of the games that people are so excited about, like Destiny and they're all first-person games. I hate first-person shooters. But I'm going to detach myself from the fact that I don't like these games. I have played many of them. And I've even enjoyed to some point games like older Call of Duty games or Battlefield. You know, they were fun to a point, but after a while, they're repetitive and they all look the same. All these first-person shooter games, and the only thing is, some of them have zombies, some of them have aliens, and some of them are just, uh, I guess, military simulators. But they all feel the same. They come out every fucking year with little tiny differences, but it's the same game, and people get so excited over it. Again, I'm not impressed. I don't see anything that exciting. And then a lot of the games they announced at E3 that people are so excited about are rehash games. They're not even new games. They're just saying, hey, we're polishing these up for next gen, and here we're releasing them in some special package. And you can buy all these games that you already own, but they're going to be slightly more polished and whatever. Games like Halo and a lot of other games. And people are excited over that too. And you know what? Even saying that, there are two games that I am looking forward to. So even I'm caught up in it to a little, to a point. Grand Theft Auto 5. I am looking forward to getting that game for next gen. I do want to see what Rockstar does with it. But a big reason that I'm looking forward to it is because I do trust Rockstar. To me, they're the best developer out there. I love almost every game they've ever made, and they work so hard. They put a lot of quality into their games, and they take their time to do things right. So until you show me that you're putting out shitty products, I'm gonna support you. And I Rockstar makes a game, I'm gonna buy it. I'm gonna trust them. So I'm gonna trust that they're gonna do enough with Grand Theft Auto 5 that it'll be worth it to me to get it. Plus, I am looking to buy the PlayStation 4, but like I said, I'm not that impressed with it, and that's why I'm sort of waiting. But you know what? I'm gonna end up getting it anyway. There's really no other alternative for me. I'm not a PC gamer, not going there, not interested. So I'm looking forward to Grand Theft Auto 5. That's one game. Then The Last of Us. I look forward to that, but I don't own Last of Us. I've never played it. That's one of the games I've wanted to get, and I just haven't gotten around to it. But then, knowing that it was coming for next gen, I said, you know what? I'm just gonna wait till I get a PS4. I'm gonna get that. I'm gonna get Grand Theft Auto 5. So I definitely look forward to Last of Us. And then let's see. Hmm. Then there's the Division. I'm looking forward to that. That's a game that the only game that I'm actually excited for. That looks any somewhat revolutionary, which is not a word I can use really for any of these games. It's like nothing. Even some of them that look pretty decent, they don't look revolutionary. Like wow, I'm blown away by it. And the only one I felt that way for is the Division. The problem is it's made by Ubisoft, and they're pretty big on this false advertising and this hype. And they've already proven to me with Watch Dogs that I can't fully trust what I'm being shown. On top of that, it's being delayed to 2015. Hopefully, as disappointing as it is to have to wait so long to finally see that game, I'm hoping that it means that it pretty much resembles what we saw at E3. So I'm hoping it looks that way. But something else bothers me about the Division. It seems to be focused on online multiplayer and like co-op play. It's really attached to online. I'm not a huge fan. I'm a first and foremost. I like offline single player story modes. That part of gaming, I think, is starting to take a back seat more and more as time goes on, and I'm really concerned about that. And eventually, I think we're gonna start seeing games that don't have an offline at all, and just fully online games. I hope that doesn't happen anytime soon, but that really concerns me. Um, I don't like having to rely on online multiplayer. Sometimes you want games that you could play by yourself. You know, that's becoming a lost art. I just hope it doesn't go away anytime soon. But that part of it sort of bothers me about the division. They did say that you can play by yourself, but everything we've seen so far that's being shown by Ubisoft, it's leaning a lot towards it's heavily reliant on online multiplayer and co-op play. So that kind of scares me. Also, like I said, the big disappointment of Watch Dogs, I'm hoping that doesn't happen with the division. They did say that all the footage was captured from PS4. That sounds good, but they let people believe a year ago that Watch Dogs was next gen, and then eventually people started finding out, and the shit hit the fan. So I hope developers start taking notice. Maybe start showing more of what we're really gonna see. And the last thing I want to say, for the love of God, could you please stop fucking announcing games years before we're ever gonna play them? You don't gain anything. Marketing works, but you don't need that much time. Why don't you do it like maybe 6 months before you know you're gonna release a game? I understand delays happen with all games. But you know what? How about waiting till you're in the last stages of testing a game? When the game is just almost at 100% completion, you're just finalizing all the little details, and your testing is pretty much over. Then come out and announce a game and say, hey, boom, Ubisoft presents blah, 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 Rockstar. Rockstar's guilty of it too. As much as I love Rockstar, they are terrible when it comes to marketing. They announce games, and then you don't even hear about them for years. All their big titles have suffered the same fate. I hate it because you're just building anxiety for consumers. They're like, what the fuck? Where is it? I'm still waiting to know what the fuck happened to Agent. Where is Agent? I was looking forward to that. That sounds like such an amazing game, and I love open world games, and I look forward to it. I'm like, wow, that game sounds like it's gonna be awesome, and it's Rockstar. I know they're gonna knock it out the park. And guess what? That was years ago. They won't even tell you if it's still in production, in development. It's a big mystery. Max Payne took years to come out. LA Noire, all these games. And it's just all you do is build up anxiety. That's not really marketing. You don't need years of anxiety to get people to buy your game. If the game is good, if the product you put out there is good, it's going to sell. And how about surprising people? That's some of the best games that have ever come out have been surprises. When Grand Theft Auto 3 came out, it blew everyone out of the water. It shocked people. It was like the most awesome thing. That was revolutionary. When I use that word revolutionary, that's when you just took the next major step forward in gaming. That game changed the video game universe when it came out. And I still remember playing that game. I still get chills thinking about it. I got so much enjoyment out of that game. When I talk about replay value, that's huge. And everyone can remember games like that changed everything. And guess what? I didn't remember hearing much about it till it came out. And guess what? It became a huge, huge financial success. Big time seller. And every game that came after that, you didn't need to hype it. People were going to line up and buy it. Do you really think Grand Theft Auto 5 needed years of hype? That thing was going to sell. If you come out and say, hey, 3 months from now, boom, here's the release date, the next Grand Theft Auto's coming out, it would sell the same amount of fucking copies. Guaranteed. So you don't need to do this. And I wish developers and publishers would stop fucking hyping these games 2, 3 years before they ever see the light of day. A lot can happen in a couple of years. I've seen games canceled, delayed. We know games get delayed. If you don't fucking announce it so early, the public doesn't know it's being fucking delayed. The Division was announced a year ago. Here we go again. Announced again at this year's E3. Not a new fucking announcement, but now, along with that announcement, guess what? Oh, it's being delayed till 2015. What do you get from that? That's, to me, that's negative. That's not positive. That's negative publicity. If you would have just kept your fucking mouth shut and wait, and then announce the game in the fall. If it's coming out in 2015, you announce it in the fall, that's plenty of time. Plenty of time to market the game. And you'll have a better idea of when the game's fucking coming out. There's no release date yet. 2015 is 12 fucking months. It could be the fall of 2015 for all we know. So developers, publishers, stop fucking announcing these titles anywhere that you're announcing them before you're announcing a pregnancy before it even happens. How about waiting? Wait till the fucking belly's showing. Maybe 6 months down the line, say, hey, we're gonna call everybody up and say, we're pregnant, we're having a kid. It's due in 3 months, whatever. Don't fucking announce things well before conception. Some of these games are still in the early stages of just laying the foundation. We don't need to know about them. Yeah, you're gonna excite us for the moment, but then there's this big fucking forever wait. And everything that happens, delays and all these other things, it just adds more negativity behind your product. Stop it. Surprise us once in a while. Anyway, that's really all I have to say. Overall, the consoles, the next gen games that are coming, not impressed. And I hope that changes. I really do. And I know they're going to get better. But developers are starting to get lazy too. They're just rehashing similar games. All of these fucking quote unquote new games that are coming out feel like other games. Too many first person shooters out there. How about more third person games? How about more stealth adventure games or horror genre games? Games that we used to, I mean, I remember playing Siphon Filter, one of the most underrated games ever. I have so many fond memories of that game. Why not do a modern version of that? Yeah, that's kind of a rehash, but don't do it exactly the same. But still, third person shooter where you're sort of like a secret agent, or where a game where you use a lot of stealth, not just running around indiscriminately shooting people. Use stealth, sneak around, you know, uh, solve things, do some investigate. There's a lot they did with those type of games, and they were fun, memorable, and those are the type of games I want to start seeing more of. Or games like Resident Evil, not the shit that came later. I'm talking about like the first couple of Resident Evils. Those were games were like revolutionary. I was like, wow, I never saw something like this before. This shit's amazing. The games were genuinely scary, and instead of fucking zombies, like a lot of zombie games, just a bunch of zombies running around and you're fucking hacking people. I mean, after a while, you get tone deaf to that shit. It's not fun. It's just repetitive. But Resident Evil, the first couple of games, man, what happened? Why aren't people developing games like that anymore? Let's see more of that. The reason I love games like Grand Theft Auto or other open world games, Red Dead Redemption, oh my God, I think that's the greatest game of all time. I want to see a sequel to that. I love open world games because they give you so much choice on doing things. Whereas you're not just locked in certain environments and you're just doing the same thing. Let's let's see more of that stuff. Come up with some really innovative things that are, all these first-person shooter games. It's just running around, military style, and it's just they're great online games because that's all a lot of people that just care about multiplayer. That's what they want to do. But if you played one, you played them all. It just kind of looks a little different, and all right. And most of them have zombies, aliens, or military, some kind of military shit going on. There's not much more you could do with these type of games. Um, I know people have examples of other games that are kind of innovative and diverse to a point, and that's fine. But overall, generally speaking, too many first-person shooters, and I'm not seeing much in terms of innovation and development from these companies. So hopefully within the next year, year and a half, we start seeing more and more better things. So that's what I'm gonna say. Leave your comments, whatever opinions you have. Let me know what you think. So I know this video was a little longer than I anticipated, but I get into these things and I start more and more things start popping up in my head. It's like, yeah, you know what, that too. So I apologize for that. So I'll see you guys later.